Welcome to the latest edition of Alz Caps, the off-season version, with former Capitals defenseman Karl and AP hockey writer Steve Wino, and we are joined by former NHL.com Capitals correspondent Katie Brown, live from Montana. Katie, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Let's start with the bad news. We'll get to plenty of stories later. Next week, we'll have Brooks Orpik on, fresh graduate Brooks Orpik on, and we'll talk some kind of Capitals, ex-Capitals guys around the playoffs and those sort of things. But as we were taping last week, Karl, we talked about the Tom Wilson injury, and we're like, well, maybe it's not an ACL. It was an ACL. He had surgery the day before. We found out after this is a 6 to 8 month recovery. I know you haven't dealt with that particular injury, but what are your thoughts on this and Tom missing what's at least going to be the first month of the season, if not more?
Well, it was interesting the way that it was injured, right? Like, I think we all know it was from that collision into the boards when Mantha was also coming in. And so it's kind of strange to see an ACL go that way. I mean, the impact that must have happened, or the weird jarring motion that must have happened must have been pretty violent, I guess, inside the knee. So pretty crazy. And yeah, there was no Tom Wilson coming back.
No, there wasn't.
Clearly. I think it's weird. Sometimes those injuries can be like, you don't really have a ton of pain, but you just have zero strength, right? And there's nothing you can do. You feel like you should be out there, but when it comes down to it, you can't do anything. So 6 to 8 months, absolutely brutal. Hopefully he's, I would imagine he's got a pretty good program that's going to help him get back, but just awful. And, I got to correct myself. So I think last time we talked, I may have said that Backstrom this would be possibly a third surgery, but
no, he's only had the one.
Yeah, he's only had the one. Yeah. So if he does do another surgery or whatever they're thinking, then it would be a second. So I got to make sure that I have that, state the record for the record that it's only been one.
It's only been one. I'll ask Katie, as someone with a bad knee, I know you've not have a torn ACL, but how bad is this? What's the recovery like from some of these sort of leg injuries? Because you've had these before, and Tom Wilson very well from having covered this team.
My sister tore her ACL playing like high school basketball, and it took her, I don't know, it was a long time ago, but I mean it was rough for her because like you just want to get back out there. But speaking to like the randomness of like the injury, that it didn't look like something that would cause that much damage. Right. I think it was like Super Bowl Sunday 2 years ago. I was walking back to my friend's house in Whitefish, which is like the ski town up here, and the sidewalks are not always like in clear condition. And we were just walking, and I slipped on some ice and actually came down on my left hand, and my right hand was in my pocket. And the thing that got injured was my labrum. I tore my labrum just by like falling and landing, like just whatever jarring motion, like Karl, like you said, kind of like it just, yeah. And so I had to have shoulder surgery that summer, and it took like a good 6 months.
Well, it's something unsuspecting. Your body's not ready for it, and it just takes a second when you're not braced, or, it's weird how that happens too. Cause they always say like if you're really intoxicated and you do
I wasn't, for the record.
Exactly. If you would have been,
we've all been there.
Just would have been like going with the motions and nothing would have happened.
Probably. Yeah. It was just weird. I think it was just like the angle of my hand being in my pocket and the way I came down. Like it was just weird.
Karl, how did you, the sports hernia core muscle thing, how did that happen for you?
They usually say that it's something kind of wear and tear over time, but I remembered clearly it was a play. And it was my buddy, Ryan White, who was coming up the boards, and then he cut back, and I just went to go stop. And I don't know if I was a little bit too wide in my stop. And you just felt it right away that it was over pretty much. And then trying to survive after that. So sometimes those things can just creep up over time. And then occasionally it's a motion like that. So that just was the way for me. But speaking of shoulder, I had a torn, what the heck did they call it? Capsule in my shoulder from playing a game of hacky sack that went wrong with my buddy. There was a big group of us. Yeah. Big group of us in a tournament that we were all playing hacky sack as warm up, and he kicked the ball at me like ridiculously hard. It was stupid. He was trying to be a thing. I thought he must've thought he was trying to be cool. I don't know. So I picked it up and I launched it at him, and he dodged it and then charged at me like out of nowhere. The whole team is right there. So I wrapped him up and like turned and spun him and then went down. But same thing, like my shoulder hit, or my elbow hit the ground first and just went back and tore the capsule the day before the tournament started. And so it's those weird, stupid things that we do sometimes. Like my dad tore his calf playing tag with me. It's the things that you shouldn't be injured from end up hitting us the worst. So I don't know. It's just weird. It sucks when it happens, but it does happen.
Really weird. Yeah.
I had a buddy who punctured a spleen just like in college wrestling with buddies, and I had to wind up going to the emergency room from that. But Katie, didn't you fall off a horse and break your ankle too?
Well, I broke my ankle like in the saddle. It's kind of a long story. Like my weight, because when you're
we only have like 4 minutes to tell the story. So
well, okay. So if you've ever ridden a horse, like all your weight's kind of in your ankles, like it's sort of part of your balance. And I was riding out in this open field, and my horse kind of like shifted weight, and it shifted all of my weight into my one side, and I just heard my ankle like crunch, basically.
That's not what you want. No.
I just had to have bone spur or surgery because of like that. I've had arthritis in it, and I have screws in it. It's a bad situation. But
so Tom told us, and Tom was skating like right before the season ended. I'm curious both your thoughts, Katie, first on how insane Tom Wilson is to now that we know that it was a torn ACL that he was thinking of playing in this. Because I want Katie's opinion as from our standpoint, and then I want Karl on your thoughts, because knowing a player who wants to get out there, but knowing you can't do it, and kind of what your limit is in that situation.
That brings to mind last year when I was out in Glacier, I was hiking, and I twisted my ankle the day before, but there was this hike I really wanted to do, even though my ankle was like clearly messed up. I still did like a 10-mile hike, but like you just get like focused on something that you want to do, and you're willing to like kind of push through it.
Yeah, it's the playoffs, right? So
it's the playoffs, right?
I just had this conversation the other day with a friend who they asked, how that works, and injury and stuff like that. And all you're looking for from the doctor is, I'm not going to injure this further. 100%. And if you can get that, then it's strictly mental, right? It's can I battle through the pain enough that I can play and I can be valuable to the team. If that's a yes, then yeah, you go for it. You do whatever you can. And the nice thing is that the team is willing to do a lot more during the playoffs to have people play, right? From your Tylenol cocktails to your, what you can use to freeze.
Whatever you can shoot it up.
Everyone knows the stories of I think the football players and their lines for their Toradol shots before games. It's things like that you try and do, or you freeze the area around it, the nerves around it to lessen the pain, and you're just hopeful that you can get through it and that it lasts the entire game. But yeah, if it was possible for him to get out there and play and benefit the team, then yeah, you go ahead and try it. I remember seeing Brooks Lake do it with I think it was a grade 2 MCL tear. And I was like, what's this guy doing? Like, there's no chance that he's going to be able to play. And at the time he hadn't missed a game in like 300, 400 games or something like that. So I'm like, this is, it's pretty impressive that he's doing it. And he went out there and looked pretty good. But that was the decision for the team is he good enough that he's better than someone we can call up. And so I don't know, like a 50% Tom, is that better than whoever's going to take his place? It's up for debate in the playoffs. You got to be careful with that. So it seemed like that was a situation.
Yeah, and it did seem like he could make it worse. And like, instead of just being a torn ACL, if it's multiple ligaments, then you're talking about him being out a full year. Speaking of, and that, right, like this is like you could absolutely, like, you want to be in there, right, Katie? But like, you can't make it worse.
Yeah, you can. Like, yeah, like and the knee is such like it's structured. It's like kind of like the shoulder like that. It's like, if it's not stable, like you can definitely make it.
Yeah, they all rely on each other, right? You can't have if one of them's gone, then the other ones get overstressed, and you don't. It turns from a 6 to 8 month injury to 12 months, and there's no point of doing that. But it's a tough pill to swallow for anybody. Like, you want to go on that hike and you want to play in the playoffs, right? It's the way it works.
Mine wasn't quite as bad. I made it through, but
No, and I know just no 6 to 8 month recovery from that. But we were talking about ACLs. Chase Young from the Commanders has come back from a torn ACL. Listen to the John Keim report also on Empire Media for more about Chase Young. Enough of Tom Wilson's knee. We'll worry about that later. And later this offseason, get into what the Capitals might be able to do about that. But in the playoffs right now, we got a handful of ex-Capitals guys around. André Burakovsky was scratched for game 2 of the Avalanche Western Conference Final against Edmonton. Karl, you saw that the other night, blocked a shot. He was limping around the arena yesterday. I'm sure you know how that feels to block a shot and not be able to play.
Yeah, it's sucks. it's not fun. And it so much depends on where that shot's taken, right? If you have so many pressure points in the skate that if it's pushing on the wrong spot, it's just excruciating pain. And like we had said, you do as much as you can to mitigate the pain, but you don't really freeze a foot. You know, you kind of need to feel your foot to skate. So it's tough. But when I saw that happen and the game was over, I texted Berkey and cause he's not really known as a shot blocker. Right. And I sent him a message just saying, how awesome that was. It's huge to see it. And he says he should stop blocking shots. It's not in his game. And I'm like, maybe not, but the rest of the guys really appreciate that. Even if people don't really take too much notice, the team appreciates that. So hopefully we see him back soon. But that Bouchard can absolutely hum the puck. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some damage in there.
Yeah, Evan Bouchard, I forget who on the broadcast said, like, he shoots the puck as hard as any defenseman in the league. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, does he really? And then I was like, well, Zdeno Chara might not be playing anymore. So and Shea Weber's not playing anymore. So yeah. Evan Bouchard might be that, right?
Yeah, I've seen him just freaking whale it. Like,
yeah. The thing is, we don't know how hard everybody shoots, right? We only get to see a select few shoot it every year. And so it's hard to match that. Like, we never got to see Milan Jurčina shoot the puck when, with a radar gun, and we all knew he could shoot the puck hard. There's lots of guys that can let it fly, but they just never get the opportunity in the All-Star game, which is why I'm a big fan of every team doing some sort of skills competition.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. Jason Chimera holding the record for fastest skater in Edmonton, unofficial fastest lap time. So we'd love to be able to see that and have it be more official. So, that's my opinion. I don't know what you think about that, Katie, especially when you get some characters too, like Chimmer, who you would have, had some time with. I think it's fun when we get to see what some of the individual skills are that you only get to see during the All-Star game.
Yeah, no, that's fun because like it's almost like the combine that they have where you can just like kind of do like a skills test and see where you're at. Like, because you might not, if you're not like an All-Star game guy, then you might never know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the puck and player tracking though. Now we will now know at some point soon, probably starting next season, how fast guys are skating and how fast guys are shooting. And that's cool. That's cool shit. Right? Like to know that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's sweet too to see because I was always a big fan of when you do fastest skater to do 1 lap forward, 1 lap backwards, right? Because some guys can't skate backwards. It's the truth. Like they cannot pivot and skate backwards. And so I think it'd be sweet to be able to see who can do it both ways.
I love that you brought up Milan Jurčina, but Katie, I'm wondering what is your favorite Karl Alzner story from covering the team? Is there, do you remember anything from those times of, I guess, maybe 2013 on to 2017?
I was trying to think about this, and one thing that I do remember was like, I think the Caps were about to play the Bruins, and Braden Holtby had this like insane winning streak, or I don't know if it was a shutout streak, but it was like an insane winning streak against the Bruins. And I remember going up to Karl and just like asking about that, and he goes, "Are you gonna ask him that?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "If you care about us at all, you will not ask him that question." And I don't know why I remember that so clearly, but
that's the shutout for a goalie thing. Like if you're in there, you don't want to bring it to their attention. They're already probably thinking about it, but you don't really want to bring it to their attention. Like we can talk about it here and it doesn't matter. But when you actually go up to the person and say it, then it's like, that's like the Tampa Bay thing, right? That they haven't lost back-to-back games in 18 tries in the playoffs. Like, you know that they're thinking about it, but
Yeah.
all of a sudden we bring it to light and it just,
Yeah.
it seems like we've messed something up. Right.
It's
So
Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny that way, but I don't know. Did you, of all the guys that you talked to in Washington, was there anyone in particular that you really enjoyed talking to or felt weird talking to? I know some guys aren't always that open to answering things, but I'm curious from your perspective what you thought.
Well, no, I was thinking about this last night too. And I remember it was like, if there was like a bad game, everyone would just be at your stall, Karl, and then
or Matt Niskanen, right?
Or Niskanen, yeah. And then just like practice or like morning skates, like Jay Beagle and like Nate Schmidt, like those guys were always just like
someone to talk to. Yeah. I what I liked about Niski is that he really seemed to take time with his answers, right? Like he didn't just, the question didn't get asked and then he just blurted out an answer. He thought about it and it was at sometimes awkward silence, but you knew that he cared. And that's the way I felt with him in the car too. I drove to all the games with him and I'd ask him a question and there'd be silence for 5 seconds. I'm like, did he hear that? Should I ask it again? And then all of a sudden his answer would come out and I'm like, oh, okay. He actually is processing what I've just said versus me sometimes where I just start talking with a few filler words before I can figure out what I want to say. Right. So Niski, I think Niski was a great person to talk. At least he seemed like he was a great person to talk to.
No offense to you, Karl. I think my favorite people, in addition to you and like Joel Ward, I think Matt Hendricks still might be my favorite guy from that era to deal with, right, Katie?
Yes.
And he's a beauty too.
Wasn't there that whole thing like he got like what happened to his eye that time? This was like almost 10 years ago.
During the HBO thing, right? Where he had like bloodshot eye or something.
No, yes. It was like after that though. Yeah, it was after that. I have to try to find. I think I wrote a story about it, but it was a long time ago. I don't remember.
Some weird stuff happened. Some weird stuff happened during those times. Dennis Weidman had the compartment syndrome situation. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes, that was scary. Very scary.
Really scary. I didn't even realize until like recently how they basically have to just like cut you open. They have to
and leave you cut open.
Yeah, they have to. I didn't even really realize that until like I saw a picture of it and I was like, oh, okay, that's
he was filleted right open.
Yeah.
That's so gross. So we have to get him to come on and talk about it at some point because if
he wants to, because I don't there are some injuries guys have had that they're so traumatic that they don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he feels about it, but at the time I remember it was because he hadn't been with the team for very long, and then he ended up being in the hospital for like 7 days straight or something like that, and we were looking after his dog for him, and barely knew him, but we got to know each other pretty good after that. When someone goes through something traumatic, like I don't think you ever expect to be filleted open from the knee to the hip. It's kind of gross.
No, and my Dennis Weidman is, I think it was a 2012 All-Star game when it was supposed to be Ovi and Weidman in Ottawa, and then Ovi got suspended for charging, I think it was Zbigniew Michalek of Pittsburgh. He got suspended, so he was suspended like right before the All-Star break. So he was like, "Screw this, I'm not going." So it was just me and Dennis Weidman hanging out in Ottawa for 3 days. I was like his personal reporter for All-Star Dennis Weidman, because who would have thought Dennis Weidman would have been an All-Star? But he was that year.
What's the thing? Like Wides, he's a really, really good player. He's one of the best passers that I played with. And he knew the game really well. The only knock on him was that at a time where foot speed was becoming a big thing, is that he liked to slow the game down instead of, run and gun. And people would always say, oh no, he's too slow. He's playing the game too slow, this and that. But he controlled the game. Like he was fun to watch because he decided what was being done on the ice, and not many guys can do that. So I love that about Dennis. And my favorite line that he ever said to me, because he knew how much I liked going off the glass and out to relieve pressure. He'd always say he'd rather throw the puck up the middle and give somebody a grade A chance on net than ever go glass and out. And I'm like, well, then me and you would work perfectly, because I'll just pass it over to you and let you do something with it, and then I'll stay in the middle waiting for that turnover.
And we had a lot of hockey talk for a long time. And now, after months of talking hockey, just basically Karl and I, the return of Karl's Stupid Questions after a long pause. And now it's back. Karl's Stupid Questions with Katie Brown.
Yes, so excited. I just a heads up, I have an unstable internet connection. It's telling me right now. So hopefully hopefully, Wino, I don't have to put you on the spot and all of a sudden take over the.
I don't have any questions. I've asked you questions for decades. This is, you say you're the one who wants to ask questions now. So this is your segment.
Yes. Okay. Let's do it. All right, Katie. 6 questions. We gave you the rundown already, so just have fun with it. Nothing crazy. Very curious actually about the first one since you're in Montana. What do you prefer, sunrises or sunsets?
Ooh, that's close because it depends on where you are for the sunrise. Like if you're in the park and because I'm kind of crazy. I like to get up at like 4 a.m. and go and catch the sunrise, but we also have gorgeous sunsets here, and the sun, like the western sky never really gets like dark, like it's sort of light, and you might know that from looking at it. But if I had to pick, I'll pick a sunset.
Sunset, there you go. Okay,
you don't have to work as hard for a sunset. Sunrise, you got to wake up and be there for it. Sunset, you're probably already awake, right?
True. Yeah, if you want to consider it that way. It's a very good point.
This is a new question on Karl's super question.
Yes, less work going for sunsets. I like it. All right, next one is, can you think of a word or a phrase that is really overused, something that really bugs you? Like, for example, people being called the GOAT or legend, things like that. That's a couple of my pet peeves right there. But do you have anything that comes to mind, hockey related or otherwise?
Oh yeah. My pet peeve was everyone calling, like, anytime like a player retired or like did something, they'd be like, that guy's really classy. And I was like, everyone can't be classy. Stop using that word. You're just
too much classy. Yeah. Too much class going on right now.
Not everyone's classy, and that's okay.
So what would be a good definition of someone who's classy?
I don't know.
You're classy, Karl. I would consider you classy, Karl.
Classy Karl. Yeah. Okay.
Classy Karl with a K.
Classy Karl, stupid question.
I was going to say the Queen is kind of classy.
Queen seems classy. Definitely. Yeah. We don't know what she's like behind closed doors, but she sure seems classy. That's
I saw a video this morning of like I don't know who this guy was. He was like a attendant or something, and he was saying they were walking around one summer, and I don't know how long ago this was either, but these people came up and they started like saying, oh, like, where are you from? And they clearly didn't recognize they were talking to the Queen. And so they ended up asking her to take a photo of them.
Really?
And he was taking the photo, and then later they may have gotten a photo with her. I don't remember, but later on she remarked to her staff that she hoped that like she would have liked to see their friends' faces back in the States when they showed them the picture, and that she hoped someone would tell them who she was.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like hanging out with the Queen, they like ran into the Queen. They didn't recognize her.
Not that I'm comparing you to the Queen here, Karl, but is there a time where like you like going out and not getting recognized?
Sorry, a time that I like.
I mean, like I've talked to Gary Bettman about this a little bit, where there are places where he just goes and no one has any idea who he is, and after kind of being in the public eye, do you enjoy going out where people just kind of don't bring any attention to it?
Oh yeah, always. That's, I mean, I don't know. For me, it seems awkward, unless it's at a hockey game where
right.
I kind of understand that, it makes sense. If I'm at restaurant or farmer's market or something like that, it seems awkward to me, right? Like I don't, however, everybody else is walking by like what the heck is going on here? Or at an airport where I'm in a different city and it just so happens to be a Caps fan, right. Everyone's like, who the heck is this guy? So yeah, typically it's nice to just do your own thing. Like my kids, they notice it now. Like if I go to their school to pick them up and someone says something, you can see, especially with my daughter, she's like, we're famous. And I'm like, no. Like I think Mandy actually said it best. She's like, no, Stella, you're not famous. Your dad is a little bit famous, but not you. And I'm like, it's just a weird thing. You don't really ever get used to it. So it makes me feel slightly awkward.
Yeah. And actually Ben Rabia had texted a bunch of us last night that someone sent him a photo of Tom with a knee brace and crutches, being like, well, of course he's going to get noticed if he's around DC with a giant knee brace and crutches.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Katie, next one is, if you could get an exclusive from anybody where they 100% spill the beans. Every question you ask, they're going to answer truthfully. Who would you choose?
Is this like a hockey player or just like anybody?
Anybody.
Oh my.
I like this being a living person only question, but I know you've allowed this to be a living or dead question.
Yeah, we can go live. I mean, living makes sense right now. We can. I'll reword it for dead or living next time. Let's go living on this one.
Like, whose business do I want to know the most? It's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. I always typically go sports related because I'm always curious what it's like for somebody else in a different sport, or any sort of big scandal or whatever you really want to know about. But there could be some interesting things in the business world too, which I think would be kind of neat.
This is hard. This is kind of a hard one.
Do you need a pass? We can go on to the next one.
I'm not gonna pass one. I'm just gonna go with like a random one. And I might want to talk to Pete Davidson and have him tell me all the secrets of the Kardashians. Actually,
that's actually really, if after all your hesitation, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I was kind of waffling on it. I was like, can I come up with something better? No, that's what I'm going with.
The ultimate truth serum one is Donald Trump, right? The ultimate one that if you wanted to break the biggest story on earth, that's it.
Yes, that would be pretty amazing. I think a lot of people would tune into that or read that one.
So I think one of our previous guests said Michael Jordan with the gambling situation, right? With the whole thing in the 90s and retiring and his dad. That's a fascinating. That's a 30 for 30 in the future. Yes,
absolutely. I think that'd be great. I think Tiger Woods would be awesome with the car accidents and all that stuff going on. There's a lot of good ones out there. Okay, next one here. I hope you're a dessert person, and if you are, what would your favorite dessert be?
Favorite dessert. I don't know if it's a dessert, but they have these there's this place up in Glacier called Polbridge, and they have a mercantile there, and they make these amazing baked goods. And there's this pastry called a Huckleberry Bear Claw.
Ooh, yep.
It's not really a dessert, but it could be.
That's a dessert.
Okay, it's delicious.
I think if it's sweet, it can be a dessert, right?
We get we're known for huckleberries and the flathead cherries that grow along the lake.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like that. I love bear claws. So Huckleberry Bear Claw. Love it. Good answer.
I'll get one.
I'm going to have to. I don't usually turn down a dessert, so I'll have to try that.
They're big too. They're like this big.
Perfect. So it's a meal.
Yeah.
So now with temperatures rising, getting into summer here, what would be your thermostat temperature? What do you like to keep the house at? Is it a warm house? Is it a cold house? We have a split in our household with what we like, warm and cold. So I'm curious, what's your temperature?
Right now, it's not very warm out right now, so it's at 73, but I turn it down lower because I live on the third floor of an apartment building, and I've already noticed with the temperatures going up here that it gets hotter up the higher up you are.
Yep.
So I mean, in the middle of summer, probably like 68, 69 maybe.
Yeah,
I would say.
What's your split,
Carl?
Carl?
Look at cooler. What?
Carl, what's your family disagreement on this?
Well, so Jody, who lives with us, she's from Nova Scotia. She loves it really, really warm. Like she would have the house at like 76 if it was up to her. And I'm the opposite. I love it freezing cold. So we kind of go back and forth. She's the same way. She's on the top floor of the house, so it gets a little bit warmer up there. So she kind of likes that. But we're always kind of, everyone's always bundled up, and I'm just shorts and t-shirt all the time. And I try and get it down to 68 if I can, and just cool everybody. But it's ongoing battle.
Yeah, my parents' house was at 78 last weekend when I was visiting them. So because my dad's 75, my mom's 68, and my dad really likes it warm because I guess your skin obviously gets thinner. So 78 was hard for me.
I don't even like my heat up that high in the dead of winter.
Holy
78's a lot.
And and my window's been open. Like when it gets cool at night, like a lot of houses here like don't have air conditioning just because it doesn't get it's not super warm all the time. But like like my window's open like all the time now that it's like warm. So I'll have like a fan on and then that, but also air conditioning.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Last one. This question's in honor of me going to watch Top Gun the other day and freaking loving it. It was so good. So
I want to talk about next episode before we bring Brooks Orpik on. I want to talk about Top Gun. We don't have time today, but I want next week. I want to do the Top Gun review.
Please. So what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh, my favorite movie, like, does it like all time or like what I've seen recently?
Let's go all time.
Ooh, I've seen a lot of movies. Off the top of my head, one of my favorite movies that I can just pop on and watch like anytime, or when it's on TV, I'll just watch it, is the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. It's just a great movie. Like, you don't need to watch any of the other ones, but.
And it's a pretty long movie too.
Yeah. And I was a really cool teenager and I had the extended version and watched that, had lots of friends. Yeah.
Awesome.
If you're gonna say TV show, I thought you were gonna, because you and I were texting about 30 Rock last night.
Yes, I was gonna say also TV shows. My two like favorite ones that I'll watch anytime is 30 Rock and the X-Files.
Oh yes, with Mulder, Scully and Mulder.
People go on Sasquatch hunts out here, so that's one of my goals, is to go on a Sasquatch hunt.
That's so good. I used to rock an X-Files shirt at school. I love that show too. You just earned extra bonus points for that one. Good job. Okay, so let me just do a quick tally here. Sunsets, the word classy, Pete Davidson, which I'm sure a lot of people would also like. Huckleberry Bear Claw, never had it. Love Bear Claws. 73, Fellowship with X-Files. Okay, that brings you, by my calculations, to 120 points. 120 points. Let me see, just quick scan. It ties you with JJ Reagan, who we had on somewhat recently, or did I just add him recently? Anyways, it ties you with JJ. So congratulations on 120. Pretty respectable score.
And congratulations, Katie, and thanks for joining us on Alz Caps.
Thanks for inviting me.
And everybody, thanks for listening. Next week on Alz Caps, we'll be joined by Brooks Orpik, and Karl and I will talk about Top Gun, which we both saw and loved. Stay tuned for that, and thank you very much for listening. This is AP hockey writer Steve Wino with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzner, the host of the Alz Caps podcast on Empire Media.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody that's tuning in to the Alz Caps podcast on the Empire Media YouTube channel. We're going to try and get as much going as we can.
Well, we love doing the video stuff. I hope you also get a chance to listen to the John Keim report about the Washington Commanders. We're going to have John on at some point and do some cross promotion, but please stay tuned to everything that we have on Empire Media, on YouTube, and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.